Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another book review, guys. This time we are talking Louis L'Amour. As per usual, we are talking about The Wagon Train. We are talking book number 10, guys. We are talking about the Sackett Brand. Um, this is, like I said, book number 10 in the series. This one follows Tell Sackett, William Tell Sackett to be specific. Kind of getting into real quick, what is this book about? Because again, we're 10 books in the series. You're expected to know the cast very well. And what I will say, kind of delving into this without trying to spoil anything, the story opens up with Tell, who has been, someone has attempted to take his life, and he ends up, finding something tragic happens aside from that, and he ends up just kind of going against everything he's believed in. I won't mess with anybody, they won't mess with me. Kind of realizes that's not the case, and we kind of see a little bit of a darker side to Tell Sackett in this book. We see him kind of outnumbered one against like 40 or 50 people. Again, it's one man's will against essentially an entire ranch with the ranch hands and whatnot. And yeah, again, delving into this, it's a little hard without spoiling anything, because I think honestly and truly this is more of a probably one of Louis L'Amour's more darker books, in my opinion. What I mean by that is just the tone in this is, there's an act of violence that takes place that I really didn't expect to happen in a Louis L'Amour book. This definitely has a character who, Louis L'Amour, his characters, while he writes most of his characters that he's written about you don't like, none have been as despicable as the bad guy in this book. It doesn't go a whole lot into detail, but we kind of see Louis L'Amour kind of has a like a serial killer villain in this one. And I just finished reading the first Charlie Parker book, which is Every Dead Thing, and the character in that is pure evil. And this one still is very, very evil and whatnot. And again, this is one of his more, I can't even think of the term that I'm thinking of, but just more grittier, I guess is the best way to put it. This is one of his more grittier, darker villains in a book that I've read. I think the only other one that's probably had or been just as gritty as this one had to have been No Traveler's Return. Which was a wartime, on a boat story. I have a review on the channel. Go check it out. I think I posted that video some months back. But again, like I said, in this we are following Tell. But also we see the Sacketts kind of band together. It's that saying, you're gonna fight me, you fight one of us, you fight all of us. One for all for one, and one for all. Whatever. The term is, we kind of see that happen here. We're seeing characters from previous books. We're seeing Lando. We're seeing Nolan. We're seeing Oren. We're seeing all these. The I almost said the peddler, but that's Will of Time. We're seeing all some characters that we've seen in previous books come back in this to try and help Tell. And while I did really enjoy this one, like I said, this is more darker, more grittier novel for Louis L'Amour book. I had higher expectations. I was hoping for more of a, us versus them. I was kind of hoping that was going to take place halfway through the book, and we don't really see the Sacketts kind of band together to help Tell till closer in the end of this book. But again, I really enjoyed it. It's one. I think if you just read the two books leading up to this, and you just read this, I think you would probably be content. You wouldn't have to necessarily read the ones previous to it. I believe they reference another Sackett in this. I think his name was Galloway, which I know is another book in the series that comes later, in like 4 or 5 books later on than this, chronologically. So again, the Sackett Brand, did it blow my socks off? No, it did not with the action scenes. But again, and I can't stress this enough. Sorry guys, English is hard. the again, the act of violence that takes place kind of threw me off. And again, I've been reading Louis L'Amour for quite a few years, off and on, but especially within the last year, I've kind of really dove into reading his books. It kind of caught me by surprise. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I can say without going too in depth in this. So I really am going to recommend this book. I highly recommend reading the previous two books leading up to this. But I think if you just, or two or three books, I think if you just read this on its own, it would be fine. But I think having the previous two or three books before this read will definitely make the enjoyment of reading this book better. It's kind of like Stephen King in The Dark Tower and how all his books are connected and this character will pop up here. That's kind of how this was. So again, guys, like I said, the Sackett Brand by Louis L'Amour didn't necessarily blow my sock off, but I still enjoyed it. It's a Louis L'Amour. I say this every time I review one of his books, even those that again don't make me go wow. I still really enjoy them. You know, they're quick, concise, pretty easy reads. So again, guys, I'm going to recommend this as per usual with about any Louis L'Amour book that I've ever read. I'm going to recommend it to you guys. As always, I hope to see you guys on the next book review, and y'all stay safe.